The grass felt cold against my cheek, and for a second, I couldn't breathe. Not because the fall knocked the wind out of me, but because 30 people, my entire family, were laughing. Derek stood over me, red-faced and triumphant, shouting that I was faking my disability for attention and sympathy. My mother covered her mouth, shoulders shaking with giggles. My father grinned, shaking his head like I was a mischievous child caught in a prank. Then I heard it. A throat clearing, sharp and deliberate. A man's voice, cold as winter ice, cut through the laughter. He said 5 words that changed everything. I am Josephina, 28 years old, graphic designer, and apparently the family joke. The annual barbecue at my parents' house in suburban Indianapolis had always been my favorite day of the year. Growing up, I remembered running through this same backyard, playing tag with my cousins, eating too much potato salad, and staying up late catching fireflies in mason jars. But that was before the diagnosis, before the wheelchair, before my brother decided I was competition for an inheritance I did not even know was being contested. The morning started normally enough. I had dressed carefully, choosing a soft blue sundress that my grandmother Helen once told me matched my eyes. I wanted to look nice. I wanted to feel normal. My condition, myasthenia gravis, an autoimmune disorder that attacks the communication between nerves and muscles, had been progressing for 18 months. Some days were better than others. Today was a decent day. I could move my arms well, could hold my head up without the muscle fatigue that sometimes left me slumped and exhausted. But my legs, those had given up almost entirely 6 months ago. Dr. Raymond Foster, my neurologist, had agreed to come with me as my +1. He was a kind man in his early 50s, with gray threading through his dark hair and a calm, steady presence that made even the scariest medical appointments bearable. He had been delayed by an emergency at the hospital, texting me that he would arrive within the hour. I told him not to rush. I would be fine. I was wrong. Derek, my older brother by 3 years, had been strange all morning. He kept watching me with this tight smile, like he knew something I did not. He made comments, little digs, about how convenient it was that I showed up in the wheelchair, how I seemed fine when I wanted to be, how funny it was that my condition flared up right around the time Mom and Dad started talking about updating their will. I laughed it off. I thought he was just being Derek, thoughtless and self-centered like always. Then came the moment. I was near the picnic table, talking to my cousin Mallory about a design project I was working on. She was sweet, 23, and one of the few family members who never treated me like I was fragile or faking. Derek walked up behind me. I felt his hands on the back of my wheelchair. Before I could turn around, he shoved. Hard. The world tilted. I threw my hands out, but there was nothing to grab. I hit the ground, landing on my side, my hip taking most of the impact. Pain shot through me, sharp and bright. For a moment, the laughter did not register. Then it crashed over me like a wave. My aunts, my uncles, my cousins, even my parents. They were laughing. At me. On the ground. Helpless. Derek's voice rose above the noise. Stop faking for attention, Josephina. Get up. We all know you can walk when you want to. This whole wheelchair thing is just for sympathy. You have always been dramatic. I could not speak. Humiliation choked me. Tears burned behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Not here. Not in front of these people. I tried to push myself up, but my arms shook. My legs were useless. I was stuck. Then the laughter stopped. All at once. Like someone had flipped a switch. I heard the throat clear again, closer now. Shoes appeared in my line of vision. Expensive dress shoes, polished and pristine. A man knelt beside me, his face coming into view. Dr. Foster. His expression was a mask of cold fury. I am her treating physician, actually. The words dropped like stones into a silent pond. The ripples spread fast. My mother's hand fell from her mouth. My father took a step back. Derek's smirk faltered, confusion flickering across his face. Dr. Foster did not look at any of them. He focused entirely on me, his hands gentle as he checked my arms, my legs, my head. Are you hurt? Any sharp pain? Dizziness? I shook my head, unable to find my voice. He nodded. Then stood, turning to face my family. His voice was no longer gentle. It was clinical, detached, and absolutely ruthless. Josefina has myasthenia gravis, a chronic autoimmune disorder. Her immune system attacks the receptors that allow her muscles to receive signals from her nerves. This causes progressive muscle weakness, primarily in her legs, but also affecting her arms, neck, and even her ability to swallow and breathe in severe cases. She is not faking. She is not seeking attention. She has a documented, medically verified disability. What I just witnessed was assault on a disabled person. Would you like me to call the police, Josefina? The question hung in the air. Every face around me had gone pale. My mother looked like she might be sick. My father stared at the ground. Derek opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. No sound came out. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to watch the police arrive. Wanted to see Derek in handcuffs. Wanted justice. But I also wanted to disappear. I wanted to be anywhere but here, surrounded by people who were supposed to love me but had just laughed at my pain. No, I whispered. I just want to go home. Dr. Foster's jaw tightened, but he nodded. My father finally moved, stepping forward to help me back into my wheelchair. He would not meet my eyes. No one would. The silence was suffocating. Doctor. Foster stayed close, his hand on my shoulder. A silent wall between me and the family that had just shattered my heart. Derek stammered something that might have been an apology, but I did not listen. My mother tried to laugh again, a thin, nervous sound. We were just joking around, Josie. You know how Derek is. We did not mean anything by it. Doctor. Foster turned to her, and the look he gave her could have frozen fire. Jokes are meant to be funny, ma'am. What I witnessed was cruelty. I suggest you think very carefully about how you treat your daughter. No one responded. The barbecue, once full of laughter and music, felt like a funeral. I turned my wheelchair toward the driveway, and Dr. Foster walked beside me. Behind us, I heard whispers starting, low and urgent. I did not care. I just wanted to leave. As we reached my van, Dr. Foster helped me transfer into the driver's seat. He folded my wheelchair and loaded it into the back. I sat there, hands shaking on the steering wheel, staring straight ahead. I am so sorry, he said quietly. I should have been here sooner. I shook my head. It is not your fault. Thank you for standing up for me. He squeezed my shoulder gently. Call me if you need anything. I mean it, anything. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. He stepped back, and I started the engine. As I pulled out of the driveway, I glanced in the rearview mirror. My family stood in clusters, talking, gesturing. Derek was on his phone, pacing near the garage. Something about the way he moved, quick and furtive, made my stomach twist. I should have left then, driven home, locked my door, and tried to forget this day ever happened. But curiosity, or maybe masochism, made me slow down. I rolled down my window just a crack as I passed the open garage. Derek's voice drifted out, loud and clear. The doctor bought it completely. She is still milking this disability thing. I will get what is mine at the will reading next month. Dad already told me I am getting the house since I am the capable one. My blood turned to ice. I sat there, engine idling, those words replaying in my head. The house, the will, the capable one. This was not just cruelty. This was strategy. Derek had not pushed me out of my wheelchair because he was thoughtless. He pushed me because he wanted the family to see me as weak, incapable, unworthy. He was positioning himself as the heir, the one who deserved everything, while painting me as a burden. I drove home in a fog, those words echoing in my skull. By the time I pulled into my apartment complex, the shock had hardened into something else. Anger, cold, clear, and sharp as a blade. Derek wanted to take everything from me, my dignity, my family's respect, my inheritance. He thought I was too weak to fight back. He was wrong. I did not sleep that night. I sat in my living room, lights off, staring at my phone. Dr. Foster had texted twice, checking on me. I sent back short responses. I am fine. Thank you. But I was not fine. I was furious. And I was planning. The next morning, I started digging. I am a graphic designer. which means I spend a lot of time online. I know how to search, how to find information, how to follow digital trails. I started with my parents' attorney. A quick search told me his name was Howard Brennan, a partner at a mid-sized estate planning firm downtown. I found his website, his LinkedIn, and a few articles he had written about estate law. He specialized in family wealth transfers and elder care planning. That made sense. My parents were in their late 60s, and their assets, mostly the house and retirement savings, were worth a decent amount, maybe $700,000 or $800,000 total. I did not have access to their finances, but I knew enough. The house alone was worth at least $500,000. It was a 4-bedroom colonial in a good neighborhood, bought 30 years ago, and now fully paid off. My father had worked as an engineer for a defense contractor before retiring 5 years ago. My mother had been a school librarian. They lived comfortably, traveled twice a year, and had always talked about leaving something for Derek and me when they were gone. I never cared about the money. I had my own income, small but steady, from freelance graphic design work. I lived modestly in a 1-bedroom accessible apartment. I did not need their house or their savings, but Derek clearly did. Or maybe he just could not stand the idea of sharing. On the second day, I got a text from Mallory. "Can we talk? It is important." I called her immediately. She answered on the first ring, her voice low and urgent. "Josie, I need to tell you something." I did not know if I should, but after what happened at the barbecue, I cannot stay quiet anymore. My heart pounded. "What is it?" "I work at Howard Brennan's office. I am just a paralegal, so I am not supposed to know details, but I see things. Your parents have been meeting with him a lot, like every 2 weeks for the past 6 months. And I have heard them talking. Josie, they are rewriting their will, and they are cutting you out." The words hit like a physical blow. "What?" "Derek has been feeding them all this stuff about how you are exaggerating your condition, how you are manipulating them for sympathy. Your mom actually said in one of the meetings that she thinks you are being dramatic on purpose. She told Howard that Derek is the responsible one, the one who can handle things. She wants the house to go to him." I could not breathe. My own mother. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because it is wrong," Mallory's voice cracked. "You are my cousin. You have always been kind to me. And what Derek is doing, what they are all doing, it is disgusting. There is more, Josie. They have been talking about you in the family group chat, the one you got removed from a few months ago. I can send you screenshots if you want. Send them." 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a series of images. I opened the first one and felt my stomach drop. It was a message from Derek, posted 4 months ago. "Remember when Josie was normal?" He had attached a photo of me from 2 years ago, before my diagnosis, standing at a family wedding. I was smiling, holding a glass of champagne, looking healthy and strong. The comments underneath were worse. Aunt Linda had written, "She has always been dramatic. This is just her latest act." Uncle Frank added, "Derek deserves that house. He actually works hard." My mother had hearted both comments. There were dozens more. Jokes about my wheelchair, speculation about whether I was faking, discussions about how I was manipulating my parents. I scrolled through them all, each one a knife to the chest. These were people I had grown up with, people I had loved, and they had been tearing me apart behind my back for months. The last screenshot Mallory sent was the worst. It was a message from 3 weeks ago. My mother had written, "We are meeting with Howard again next week to finalize everything. Derek will get the house and the majority of the estate. Josephina will get a small trust, enough to live on, but we cannot risk her squandering everything. She is not capable of managing property or finances in her condition." Derek had responded with a thumbs-up emoji and the words, "Thanks, Mom. You are doing the right thing." I sat there, phone clutched in my shaking hands, and cried. Not quiet tears, deep, wrenching sobs that came from a place I did not know existed. I had lost my family. Not because I had done anything wrong, not because I was a bad daughter or sister, but because I was disabled, because I needed a wheelchair, because they saw me as less than. When I finally stopped crying, I called Dr. Foster. He answered immediately, concern in his voice. Josefina, what is wrong? I need help. I need to know if what they are doing is legal. He listened as I explained everything: the will, the group chat, Derek's plans. When I finished, there was a long silence. What they are doing is morally reprehensible, he said finally. Legally, it is more complicated. Your parents have the right to distribute their estate however they choose, but if Derek has been manipulating them, if there is evidence of coercion or fraud, that changes things. You need a lawyer. I know someone who specializes in this kind of case. Her name is Diana Shepherd. Can I give her your number? Yes, please. 2 hours later, Diana Shepherd called me. She was direct and no nonsense, her voice brisk but kind. She asked detailed questions, took notes, and then gave me her assessment. What your family is doing is disgusting, but not necessarily illegal. However, if we can prove that Derek has been defaming you, manipulating your parents, or planning to defraud you of assets you are legally entitled to, we have a case. I need documentation. The screenshots are a good start. Do you have anything else? I thought about the conversation I had overheard in the garage. I have Derek on record admitting he is manipulating the situation. I recorded it on my phone. That was not entirely true. I had not recorded it, but I could. Indiana was a one-party consent state for recordings. If I could get Derek or my parents to repeat their plans while I was present, I could document everything. Good. Deanna's approval was clear. Start documenting everything. Keep a journal. Record conversations if you can do so legally. I will start building a case. In the meantime, I want you to attend the will reading. Do not let them know you are onto them. We need to see exactly what they are planning. Over the next 2 weeks, I became a detective in my own life. I kept detailed notes of every interaction with my family. I saved every text message, every email. Mallory continued to send me updates from the law office. My parents had finalized the new will. Derek was listed as the primary beneficiary. I would receive a trust fund of $50,000, a pittance compared to the full estate. Then came the dinner invitation. My mother called, her voice sugary sweet. Josie, honey, we would love to have you over for dinner. Just the 4 of us. We need to talk about what happened at the barbecue and make things right. I almost said no, but Diana had told me to stay engaged, to keep the lines of communication open. So I agreed. The dinner was set for a Friday evening. I arrived at 6, my stomach in knots. My mother answered the door, all smiles and hugs. Derek was already there, sitting at the kitchen table, looking relaxed. My father stood by the grill outside, flipping steaks. Come in, come in. My mother ushered me inside. We made your favorite. Pot roast and mashed potatoes. I forced a smile. Thank you. The evening started pleasantly enough. We made small talk about the weather, about my work, about Derek's job at a local insurance company. No one mentioned the barbecue. No one mentioned the wheelchair incident. It was like it had never happened. Then, as we sat down to eat, the tone shifted. My father poured wine for everyone, including me. I hesitated, then accepted the glass. I rarely drank because of my medication, but I did not want to seem ungracious. We wanted to talk to you about the future, my mother said, passing me the mashed potatoes. Your father and I are not getting any younger. We have been thinking a lot about what happens next, about how to make sure everyone is taken care of. Derek nodded, his expression serious. We just want what is best for you, Josie. We know things have been hard. I took a sip of wine. It tasted slightly bitter, but I assumed it was just a dry vintage. I took another sip, trying to calm my nerves. We have been talking to some people, my father said, glancing at my mother, about options. For you. To make sure you get the care you need. My mother leaned forward, her expression earnest. There are some wonderful facilities, honey. Places where they have full-time medical staff, where you would not have to worry about cooking or cleaning or any of that. You could just focus on your health. I set down my fork. Facilities? Assisted living communities, Derek said smoothly. We found a great place in Florida. Beautiful grounds, lots of activities. It would be perfect for you. I felt a wave of dizziness wash over me. I blinked, trying to clear my vision. The room tilted slightly. What are you talking about? I do not need assisted living. I live independently. My mother and Derek exchanged a glance. Honey, we just think it would be easier for you. You would have help, support. You would not have to struggle. I am not struggling. My words came out slurred. I shook my head, trying to focus. What is happening? The dizziness intensified. My limbs felt heavy, unresponsive. The wine. Something was wrong with the wine. I looked at Derek, at my mother, at my father. Their faces blurred and swam. You drugged me? The accusation came out as a whisper. Derek and my mother exchanged another glance. My father looked uncomfortable, staring at his plate. I tried to stand, but my legs would not obey. I slumped forward, my head hitting the table. The last thing I heard before everything went black was Derek's voice, cold and satisfied. Finally, let us get her to the car. Doctor Peterson is waiting at the facility. Once she is checked in for evaluation, we can proceed with the incompetency hearing. My mother responded, her voice distant and echoing. Make sure she is secured. We cannot have her making a scene. I wanted to scream, to fight, but my body would not cooperate. Darkness swallowed me whole, and I let it, playing unconscious while my mind raced. They were kidnapping me, my own family. They were going to have me committed to a psychiatric facility and declared incompetent. This was not just about the will anymore. This was about erasing me entirely. But I was not unconscious, not completely. I was aware. And I was planning. I kept my breathing slow and steady, mimicking sleep. My body felt like it was wrapped in cotton, heavy and distant. But my mind was sharp and screaming. Through the fog, I heard movement, chairs scraping, footsteps. Derek's voice louder now. Get her wheelchair. We will take my SUV. It is bigger. My father's voice. Quieter. Uncertain. Are we sure about this? She is our daughter. Derek snapped back, irritation clear. She is a burden, Dad. You said so yourself. This way, she gets care, and we protect the family assets. You are getting old. Do you want the house going to someone who cannot even walk? Silence. Then my mother's voice sharper. Stop being sentimental, Carl. We are doing what is best for everyone. I felt hands on me, lifting me. My head lolled to the side, and I let it. Derek grunted as he maneuvered me into my wheelchair. The wheels squeaked as he pushed me toward the door. Every instinct screamed at me to fight, to open my eyes, to resist. But I forced myself to stay limp. I needed to know their full plan. I needed evidence. They wheeled me outside. The cool evening air hit my face, and I almost gasped but caught myself. I heard the beep of a car unlocking, then felt myself being lifted again. Derek and my father hoisted me into the back seat of an SUV. My head hit the leather with a soft thud. Someone buckled a seatbelt across my chest. My phone. I had shoved it into the pocket of my cardigan before dinner. It was still there. I could feel the slight weight against my hip. If I could just reach it, if I could send a message, someone would know. Someone would come. Derek slammed the door. I heard him walk around to the driver's side, heard the engine start. My mother's voice came through a phone speaker, tinny and distant. I will follow in my car. Carl, you ride with Derek. Make sure she does not wake up before we get there. The SUV started moving. I risked cracking my eyes open, just a sliver. My father sat in the front passenger seat, staring out the window. Derek drove, both hands on the wheel, jaw tight. I shifted slightly, trying to make it look like unconscious movement, and slid my hand toward my pocket. My fingers brushed the edge of my phone. I pulled it out slowly, keeping it hidden against my side. My vision was still blurry, my fingers clumsy from whatever they had given me. But I managed to unlock it. The screen glowed softly. I opened my messages and found Dr. Foster's name. Being drugged and kidnapped by family. Track my phone. Call police. I hit send, then found Diana Shepard's contact and sent her the same message. My hand fell back to my side. Phone clutched against my thigh. All I could do now was wait. Derek and my father talked in low voices. I caught fragments of their conversation. Riverside Behavioral Health, 72-hour hold. Dr. Peterson will declare her a danger to herself. Conservatorship hearing. Once she is institutionalized, we push for full control. Dad, you are doing the right thing. My father said nothing. 20 minutes passed. Maybe more. Time felt strange, stretched and warped. Then I heard it. Sirens. Faint at first, then louder. Derek cursed. What the hell? The sirens grew deafening. Red and blue lights flashed through the windows. Derek pulled over, his hands shaking on the wheel. I heard car doors opening, heavy footsteps, authoritative voices. Step out of the vehicle. Hands where we can see them. Derek and my father complied. I heard more voices, more movement. Then my door opened, and a paramedic leaned in. She had kind eyes and a calm voice. Mom? Can you hear me? I am Emily, a paramedic. You are safe now. I let my eyes flutter open, groaning softly. Where am I? You are in a vehicle with 2 men who appear to have drugged you. We received a report that you were in danger. Can you tell me your name? Josephina. Josephina Hendricks. They drugged me. My family. They were taking me somewhere against my will. Emily nodded, her expression hardening. We are going to get you out of here and check your vitals. Just stay calm. She and another paramedic carefully unbuckled me and helped me out of the SUV. My legs were useless, my arms weak, but they supported me, easing me onto a stretcher. The world spun, but I forced myself to focus. Police officers surrounded Derek and my father, asking questions, taking statements. Then I saw him. Dr. Foster climbing out of his car, still in his work clothes, his face etched with worry. He rushed over to me. Josephina. Thank God. Are you all right? They drugged me. I managed to keep my voice steady. My whine. At dinner. He turned to Emily. We need a full talk screen. Immediately. She nodded, already preparing equipment. Dr. Foster stayed beside me, his hand on my shoulder, solid and reassuring. Another car pulled up, and Diana Shepherd got out, moving with purpose. She spoke briefly to one of the officers, then came to my side. I got your message. I called the police the second I saw it. Are you hurt? I do not think so. Just groggy. Good. She pulled out her phone. I am recording everything. This is evidence. My mother's car screeched to a halt behind the line of police vehicles. She jumped out, her face pale and panicked. She ran toward the officers, talking fast. What is going on? That is my daughter. We were just trying to help her. She is confused. She needs medical attention. One of the officers, a tall woman with sharp eyes, held up a hand. Mom, step back. We are conducting an investigation. An investigation? My mother's voice rose, shrill. For what? We were taking her to get help. She is sick. She does not understand. Dr. Foster stepped forward, his voice cutting through her protests. I am Dr. Raymond Foster, Miss Hendricks' neurologist. She has a documented medical condition, but she is fully competent. What you just described sounds like attempted false imprisonment and administering drugs without consent. My mother's mouth opened and closed. No. No, you do not understand. Derek, tell them. But Derek was not talking. He stood beside the SUV, hands cuffed behind his back, his face pale and expressionless. My father stood nearby, also cuffed, looking at the ground. One of the officers approached me. Mom, can you tell me what happened tonight? I took a shaky breath and told him everything. The dinner invitation, the wine that tasted wrong, the conversation I overheard about Dr. Peterson and the facility, the plan to have me declared incompetent. Diana stood beside me, recording every word. Dr. Foster held my hand. The officer's expression grew darker with each detail. He turned to his partner. We need to bring in this Dr. Peterson for questioning and get a warrant for the Hendricks residence. I want to see if there is more evidence of planning. As if on cue, Derek's phone rang. It was still in the SUV. One of the officers retrieved it and answered, putting it on speaker. A male voice came through, impatient and annoyed. Do you have her secured? I have the paperwork ready. Once she is here, We will keep her sedated for 72 hours minimum. By then, the hearing will be scheduled, and your parents will have signed the power of attorney transfer. My fee is $20,000 as discussed. The officer's eyes narrowed. This is Officer Janet Ramirez with the Indianapolis Police Department. Who am I speaking with? There was a long pause, then the line went dead. Officer Ramirez looked at her partner. Trace that number. I want this doctor. Peterson in custody within the hour. Diana stepped forward, her phone still recording. Officer, I am Diana Shepard, Miss Hendricks' attorney. I have documented evidence of a months-long conspiracy by her family to defame her, manipulate her parents' estate, and now, apparently, to falsely imprison her. I am requesting that Derek Hendricks, Patricia Hendricks, and Carl Hendricks all be detained and charged accordingly. Officer Ramirez nodded. We will need you to come to the station and provide a full statement. All of you. She looked at Derek, my mother, and my father. You three are under arrest for suspicion of kidnapping, conspiracy to commit fraud, and administering controlled substances without consent. You have the right to remain silent. My mother started crying, loud and dramatic. This is a misunderstanding. We were trying to help her. She is sick. She does not know what she is saying. Dr. Foster's voice cut through her sobs like a scalpel. Josephina has myasthenia gravis, not a cognitive impairment. She is fully aware and fully competent. What you have done is criminal. The paramedics finished checking my vitals and confirmed drugs in my system. They recommended I go to the hospital for a full examination and tox screen. Dr. Foster rode with me in the ambulance. As we pulled away, I looked back and saw Derek being loaded into a police car. My mother was still crying, reaching for my father, who stood silent and blank-faced. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I just felt hollow. At the hospital, they ran tests. Blood work, urinalysis, a full neurological exam. Dr. Foster stayed with me the entire time, explaining each procedure, reassuring me. Diana arrived within an hour, a thick folder of documents under her arm. The tox screen will take a few hours, but based on your symptoms, I would guess Rohypnol. Dr. Foster said grimly. Commonly known as a date rape drug, it causes sedation, memory impairment, and muscle relaxation. Diana took notes, her expression fierce. This is beyond a civil case now. This is criminal. I have already contacted the prosecutor's office. They are very interested. Hours later, the results came back. Rohypnol, just as Dr. Foster suspected. The hospital provided a full report. Diana added it to her growing file of evidence. They are going to try to fight this, Diana said. They will claim they were acting in your best interest, that you are incompetent, that this is all a misunderstanding. We need to be ready. I nodded, exhausted but resolute. I am ready. Doctor, Foster squeezed my hand. You are not alone in this. We are going to see this through. And for the first time that night, I believed him. The next 2 weeks blurred together in a haze of police interviews, legal consultations, and media attention. The story had leaked somehow. Family conspiracy to institutionalize disabled woman foiled. It ran in the local news, then got picked up by a regional paper. My phone would not stop ringing. Reporters, distant relatives I had not heard from in years. Disability rights advocates offering support. I ignored most of it, focusing on building the case with Diana. Derek was released on bail after 3 days, but there were conditions. He could not contact me. He could not leave the state. My parents were also released, their bail set lower because they had no prior record. My father looked broken at the arraignment, his shoulders slumped, his face gray. My mother looked angry, whispering furiously to their attorney. Diana filed a civil lawsuit the same week. Emotional distress, defamation, attempted fraud, conspiracy. The list of charges was long and detailed. We were suing Derek, my parents, and Dr. Marcus Peterson, the psychiatrist who had agreed to falsely certify me as incompetent. His medical license had been suspended pending investigation. Mallory kept me updated on the family gossip. The extended relatives were splitting into camps. Some believed Derek and my parents, insisting I was overreacting, that they had just been trying to help. Others were horrified, particularly after Mallory leaked the family group chat screenshots to everyone. Aunt Linda and Uncle Frank initially defended my parents, sending me angry emails about airing family business publicly. I deleted them without responding, but Aunt Carol, my mother's younger sister, reached out privately. She called me late one night, her voice shaking. "Josie, I need to tell you something." I knew. Not everything, but I knew something was wrong. I heard Patricia and Derek talking at Frank's birthday party last month. They were planning to have you evaluated, to prove you were incompetent. I should have said something. I should have warned you. I am so sorry. I closed my eyes, gripping the phone. Why did you not? I was scared. Scared of causing drama, scared of being wrong. I thought maybe I misunderstood. But I did not, and you almost got hurt because I stayed quiet. I wanted to be angry, but I was too tired. Will you give a statement? To my attorney? Yes. Absolutely. I will tell them everything I heard. She did. Diana added Aunt Carol's written statement to the file. It detailed conversations, dates, and specific plans my mother and Derek had discussed. It was damning. My grandmother Helen called from her nursing home, her voice sharp with fury despite her 91 years. I did not raise Patricia to be cruel. I am ashamed of her. Ashamed of all of them. You listen to me, Josephina. You fight hard. And when this is over, you come see me. I have things to discuss with you. What things, Grandma? My will, for one. I have $300,000 in savings and investments. It was going to be split between your mother and Carol, but Patricia is getting nothing now. It is all going to you and Carol. I am calling my attorney tomorrow. Grandma, you do not have to do that. Yes, I do. You are a good girl, Josephina. You have always been kind and strong. You deserve better than this. Now go rest. You have a fight ahead of you. She hung up before I could argue. Dr. Foster and his wife Emily became my anchors. Emily, a warm woman in her 50s who taught elementary school, invited me to dinner twice a week. She cooked hearty meals, listened without judgment, and treated me like family. Dr. Foster continued to monitor my medical condition, adjusting my medications, ensuring my physical health did not deteriorate under the stress. I also started therapy. Diana recommended a psychologist who specialized in family trauma. Her name was Dr. Laurel Grant, and she was exactly what I needed. Practical, compassionate, and unwilling to let me wallow. She helped me process the betrayal, the grief, the anger. She reminded me that I was not broken, that my family's cruelty was not a reflection of my worth. I threw myself into work. Graphic design became my escape. I created a series of illustrations about disability, resilience, and justice. Bold colors, strong lines, images of people in wheelchairs not as victims but as warriors. I posted them on social media, and they went viral. Thousands of shares. Comments from people with disabilities thanking me for representing them with dignity. Messages from allies offering support. A few national disability rights organizations reached out, asking to feature my work. For the first time in months, I felt like I had purpose beyond just surviving. Then, 2 weeks before the criminal trial was set to begin, I received a package. No return address, just my name and apartment number written in neat block letters. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. Inside was a USB drive and a handwritten note on plain white paper. I could not stay silent anymore. Derek destroyed our family. He deserves to pay. Signed, someone who cares. I called Diana immediately. She told me not to touch the USB, to bring it directly to her office. I did, my hands shaking the entire drive. At her office, Diana plugged the USB into an isolated computer, one not connected to the internet, to avoid any potential malware. She opened the files, and we both leaned forward. Videos, dozens of them. Security camera footage from inside Derek's house. The timestamps ranged over 6 months. Diana clicked on the first one. It showed Derek's living room. My mother sat on the couch, a glass of wine in her hand. Derek sat across from her, leaning forward, intense. If we can prove she is incompetent, we control everything. You and Dad sign over power of attorney to me, then we institutionalize her. She will never get out. My mother sipped her wine, considering. What if she fights back? Derek laughed, cold and sharp. Who is going to believe a cripple? My stomach turned. Diana's jaw tightened. She clicked through more videos. Each one was worse than the last. Detailed plans. Financial records showing Derek had been stealing from my parents' bank accounts for 2 years. Over $75,000. Siphoned off in small increments. My parents had not even noticed. One video showed Derek and Dr. Marcus Peterson meeting in Derek's home. Money changed hands. $20,000 in cash. Dr. Peterson counted it, then nodded. I will have her declared incompetent within 72 hours of admission. The paperwork will be airtight. Diana stopped the video, her face pale. This is it. This is everything we need. Who sent it? I do not know. But whoever it was just handed us the case on a silver platter. I thought about the handwriting. Neat. Careful. Mail. Someone who had access to Derek's house. Someone who knew about the security cameras. Someone who cared enough to risk exposing the truth. My father. It had to be. He had looked so broken at the arraignment. So defeated. Maybe finally his conscience had caught up with him. Diana copied the files, securing them as evidence. She contacted the prosecutor immediately. Within hours, additional charges were filed. Embezzlement. Conspiracy to commit medical fraud. Bribery. Derek's bail was revoked. He was taken back into custody. The trial was fast-tracked. The courtroom was packed. I sat at the front with Diana, Dr. Foster beside me for moral support. The prosecution had built an airtight case. The USB drive. The talk screen. The recorded phone call with Dr. Peterson. Aunt Carol's statement. The family group chat screenshots. It was overwhelming. Derek sat at the defense table, his attorney beside him. He looked smaller somehow. Diminished. My mother and father sat in the gallery, separated by 2 rows. My mother's face was hard, defiant. My father stared at his hands. The trial lasted 4 days. The prosecution presented evidence methodically. The videos played on a large screen for the jury. I watched their faces. Shock, disgust, anger. One juror, an older woman with gray hair, kept shaking her head. Her expression horrified. Dr. Foster took the stand on day 2. He explained my condition in clear, precise terms. He brought my medical records, imaging scans, test results. He testified that I was fully competent, that my disability was physical, not cognitive. The defense attorney tried to discredit him, suggesting he was biased because we were friends. Dr. Foster did not flinch. I am her physician, not her friend. Though after witnessing what her family has done, I am proud to call her a friend. My medical opinion is based on science, not sentiment. Josephina Hendricks has a legitimate, documented disability. She is not faking. She is not incompetent. She is a survivor. The defense attorney sat down, defeated. Dr. Marcus Peterson was called next, testifying as part of his plea deal. He admitted everything. Derek had paid him to falsify documents. He had agreed to declare me incompetent without ever meeting me, without conducting any legitimate evaluation. His voice was flat, emotionless. He showed no remorse. Just a man who had sold his ethics for money. Mallory testified about the law office meetings, about what she had overheard. Aunt Carol testified about the conversations at family gatherings. Each piece of evidence stacked higher, building an undeniable picture of conspiracy. On day 3, I took the stand. Diana had prepared me, but nothing could fully prepare me for sitting in that chair, facing the jury, and recounting the worst moments of my life. I told them about the barbecue, about being pushed from my wheelchair, about the laughter. I told them about the dinner, the drugged wine, waking up in the SUV. I told them how it felt to realize my own family wanted to erase me. The defense attorney cross-examined me. He was aggressive, trying to poke holes in my story, suggesting I had misunderstood, that my family had good intentions. I stayed calm, answering each question clearly. Diana had taught me well. At one point he asked, Is it not possible, Miss Hendricks, that your family simply wanted to ensure you received adequate care? I looked him in the eye. If they wanted to ensure I received care, they would have asked me what I needed. They would have supported me. They would not have mocked me, drugged me, and tried to have me declared incompetent so they could steal my inheritance. The courtroom was silent. The defense attorney sat down. On day 4, Derek took the stand. It was a mistake. His attorney advised against it, but Derek insisted. He wanted to tell his side. He was arrogant, defensive, blaming everyone but himself. He claimed I had been manipulating the family for years. He said I exaggerated my condition for sympathy. He insisted he was trying to protect our parents' assets from someone who could not manage them. The prosecution tore him apart. They played the videos, showing Derek's own words. They presented the financial records, proving he had stolen from our parents. They asked him to explain the phone call with Dr. Peterson. Derek stammered, contradicted himself, grew angry. By the time he left the stand, the jury looked at him with contempt. Closing arguments were powerful. The prosecution painted a picture of greed, cruelty, and conspiracy. The defense tried to argue reasonable doubt, but it was weak. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty. On all counts. Derek's face went white. My mother gasped. My father closed his eyes. I sat there, numb, feeling nothing and everything at once. Sentencing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. The judge, a stern woman named Judge Patricia Steinberg, reviewed the case thoroughly. When sentencing day arrived, the courtroom was full again. Reporters lined the back row. Disability advocates sat in the gallery, showing support. Judge Steinberg looked at Derek, her expression cold. Mr. Hendricks, you attempted to destroy your sister's life, her autonomy, and her dignity because of your greed and your ableism. You drugged her. You conspired to have her falsely imprisoned. You stole from your own parents. You are a disgrace to your family name. She sentenced him to 6 years in prison. Restitution of $75,000 to my parents. $250,000 in damages to me. A permanent restraining order. Derek was given a chance to speak. He stood, and instead of apologizing, he launched into a bitter tirade. This is ridiculous. She ruined my life. She is a manipulative burden, and everyone knows it. I did what I had to do to protect my family's future. She does not deserve anything. She cannot even walk. How is she supposed to maintain a house? How is she supposed to manage anything? This whole trial is a joke, and she is the punchline. Judge Steinberg's expression hardened. Mr. Hendricks, you have shown no remorse. In fact, you have confirmed every reason why you deserve the maximum sentence. I am adding 2 additional years to your sentence for lack of remorse and for this outburst. Bailiff, remove him. Derek screamed as he was dragged from the courtroom. You will regret this, Josie. You will regret all of this. But I did not regret it. I felt lighter than I had in months. My parents pleaded guilty to lesser charges. Conspiracy. Aiding and abetting. They received probation, community service, and mandatory counseling. They were required to attend disability sensitivity training. The civil lawsuit was settled out of court. They agreed to relinquish any claim to control my medical or financial decisions. They signed a public apology, which was published in the local paper. The family house was sold. The proceeds were split. I used my portion as a down payment on a fully accessible condo in downtown Indianapolis. The disability rights organization that had featured my artwork offered me a position as their communications director. It was part-time, flexible, and paid well. I accepted. Slowly, piece by piece, I rebuilt my life. 6 months after the trial, I stood in my new condo, sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The space was mine. Truly mine. Wide doorways, roll-in shower, counters at the right height. I had decorated it with my artwork, bright and bold, covering the walls. It felt like home in a way my old apartment never had. Dr. Foster and Emily had helped me move in. They brought a housewarming gift, a beautiful potted orchid, and stayed for dinner. We ordered takeout, sitting around my new table, laughing and talking. They had become family in the truest sense of the word. Mallory visited often. She had left the law office, uncomfortable working somewhere that had been part of the conspiracy, even indirectly. She was back in school, studying social work, inspired by everything that had happened. We grew closer, bonding over shared trauma and shared hope. Aunt Carol reached out regularly. She sent cards, called to check in, and visited when she could. She was trying to make amends, and I let her. Forgiveness was hard, but she was genuine. She had made a mistake, staying silent when she should have spoken up. But she was working to be better. My grandmother Helen moved into a nicer assisted living facility, one with private rooms and beautiful gardens. I visited her every Sunday. We played cards, drank tea, and talked about everything and nothing. She was fierce and funny, and she reminded me that strength runs in our family, even if some members had forgotten it. I cut off contact with Derek, my mother, and my father completely. Derek was in prison, and I had no desire to ever see him again. My mother sent a few letters through her attorney, asking to talk, to reconcile. I did not respond. Some wounds do not heal with words. My father sent one letter, handwritten, filled with apologies and regret. He explained that Derek had manipulated him, exploited his fears about aging and losing control. He admitted he was a coward. He said he was in therapy, trying to understand why he let things go so far. He had left my mother. He was trying to become a better person. He asked for no forgiveness, just that I know he was trying. I read it once, cried, and put it in a drawer. Maybe someday I would respond. But not today. I joined a support group for people with myasthenia gravis. It met twice a month at a community center. Hearing other people's stories, their struggles and victories, helped me feel less alone. I met a man named Ethan there. He was 32, a software engineer, and he also used mobility aids. Some days a cane, some days a wheelchair. We started talking after one meeting, and the conversation flowed easily. He was kind, funny, and understood the unique challenges of living with a chronic condition. We started dating. Nothing rushed. Just coffee at first, then dinner, then long conversations that stretched late into the night. He never treated me like I was fragile or broken. He saw me as I was, strong, capable, worthy. My graphic design work continued to thrive. The viral Disability Awareness series led to freelance opportunities with national nonprofits, corporations looking to improve accessibility in their branding, and even a few book cover commissions. I loved the work, the creativity, the ability to use art to change perceptions. I also started speaking publicly. Disability rights organizations invited me to share my story at conferences, workshops, and panels. It was terrifying at first, standing in front of crowds, being vulnerable. But it was also empowering. People came up to me afterward, sharing their own stories of family betrayal, of being underestimated, of fighting for dignity. I realized my story was not just mine. It belonged to a larger community of people who refused to be erased. One afternoon, I received an email from a literary agent. She had seen my artwork and read about my case in the news. She wanted to know if I had ever considered writing a book, not just about what happened, but about resilience, disability, justice, and rebuilding after betrayal. I stared at the email for a long time, then called Diana. Should I do this? Diana did not hesitate. Absolutely. Your story could help thousands of people. And honestly, Josie, you are a hell of a writer. I have read your journal entries. You have a voice people need to hear. So I started writing. Late at night, early in the morning, whenever inspiration struck, I wrote about the pain, the betrayal, the fight, and the victory. I wrote about what it means to be disabled in a world that often sees disability as weakness. I wrote about family, both the one you are born into and the one you choose. I wrote about justice, not just in courtrooms but in everyday acts of standing up for yourself and others. The book took 8 months to complete. The agent loved it. She sold it to a publisher within weeks. It would be released the following year. Life was not perfect. I still had bad days. Days when my muscles refused to cooperate. When fatigue pinned me to bed. When the weight of everything that had happened pressed down like a physical thing. But I also had good days. Great days. Days when I felt strong and capable and free. I started a nonprofit, partnering with the disability rights organization I worked for. It was called the Dignity Project, focused on helping disabled individuals facing family exploitation. We provided legal referrals, financial assistance, and emotional support. Diana volunteered as a legal consultant. Dr. Foster served on the board. Mallory helped with outreach. It was small, scrappy, and desperately needed. One evening, I received a call from a young woman named Sophia. She was 25, had cerebral palsy, and her parents were trying to have her declared incompetent so they could control her inheritance from her grandmother. Her voice shook as she told me her story. I listened, my heart aching, remembering how alone I had felt. "You are not alone," I told her. "We are going to help you, I promise." And we did. Diana took her case. The Dignity Project funded her legal fees. 6 months later, Sophia won. Her parents' petition was denied. She retained full control of her life and her assets. She called me crying, thanking me over and over. I told her she did not need to thank me. She had fought for herself. I just helped her find the tools. That night, sitting in my condo, I looked around at the life I had built, the art on the walls, the accessible kitchen where I could cook independently, the friends who had become family, the work that gave me purpose. I thought about Derek, sitting in prison, angry and unrepentant. I thought about my parents, living with the consequences of their choices. I thought about the people I had cut out of my life and the ones I had let in. I had lost a family, but I had gained so much more. A year after the trial, I sat in a conference room at a downtown hotel, surrounded by disability advocates, attorneys, and nonprofit leaders. We were planning a statewide campaign to strengthen protections for disabled individuals against financial exploitation and false institutionalization. My story had become a catalyst. Laws were being proposed, policies were changing. A state senator, a woman named Angela Torres, who used a wheelchair herself, led the meeting. She had reached out to me months ago, asking if I would testify before the state legislature about my experience. I had agreed. The testimony was scheduled for the following week. "I am not going to lie," Senator Torres said, leaning forward. "This will be hard. You will be questioned, challenged, maybe even attacked by people who do not want these laws to pass. But your voice matters. Your story matters. Are you ready?" I looked around the room. Diana sat beside me, as always. Dr. Foster was there, taking notes. Mallory had come straight from class. Ethan sat in the back, giving me an encouraging smile. I nodded. "I am ready." The day of the testimony arrived. The State House was intimidating, all marble columns and echoing halls. I wore a navy blue dress, professional and polished. Diana walked beside me as I rolled into the hearing room. It was packed. Journalists, advocates, families of disabled individuals. And on the other side, representatives from institutions and organizations that profited from conservatorships and guardianships. They did not want change. Change threatened their income. I was called to the front. A microphone was adjusted to my height. I took a breath and began. "My name is Josefina Hendricks. I am 29 years old. I have myasthenia gravis, a chronic autoimmune disorder. I am also a graphic designer, a nonprofit founder, and a survivor of family exploitation." I told my story. All of it. The barbecue, the drugging, the conspiracy, the trial, the victory. I did not hold back. I spoke clearly, calmly, letting the facts speak for themselves. When I finished, there was silence. Then questions. One legislator, an older man with skeptical eyes, asked, "Miss Hendricks, is it not possible that your family genuinely believed they were acting in your best interest?" I met his gaze. If they believed that, they would have included me in the conversation. They would have asked what I needed. They would not have drugged me, kidnapped me, and conspired to have me declared incompetent. Their actions were not about my best interest. They were about control and money. He nodded slowly. Point taken. Another legislator, a younger woman, asked, "What changes do you think need to happen?" I listed them. Stricter oversight of conservatorships, mandatory independent evaluations before anyone can be declared incompetent, legal protections for disabled individuals against coerced institutionalization, financial penalties for professionals who participate in fraudulent schemes, and better resources for families, so they understand disability and do not see their loved ones as burdens. The hearing lasted 3 hours. By the end, I was exhausted but hopeful. Senator Torres squeezed my shoulder as I left. "You did beautifully. This is going to make a difference." And it did. The bill passed 6 months later. It was not perfect, but it was a start. Protections were strengthened. Oversight was increased. Disabled individuals had more legal recourse. I was invited to the signing ceremony. The governor shook my hand, thanked me for my courage, and handed me the pen he used to sign the bill. I kept it on my desk. A reminder that change is possible. My book was published around the same time. It was called Rising, a story of disability, betrayal, and justice. The cover featured one of my illustrations. A woman in a wheelchair, head held high, surrounded by light. The launch event was held at a local bookstore. Over 200 people attended. I read excerpts, answered questions, and signed copies until my hand cramped. People cried. People thanked me. People told me their own stories. One woman, elderly and using a walker, approached me at the end of the night. She held my book against her chest and said, "My daughter tried to do to me what your brother did to you. I did not know I could fight back. But now I do. Thank you." I hugged her, tears streaming down my face. That moment made everything worth it. Ethan and I moved in together a few months later. His apartment had not been fully accessible, and mine had extra space. It felt natural, easy, right. We cooked together, worked side by side, supported each other through bad health days and good ones. He proposed on a quiet Sunday morning. No grand gestures, just the two of us and a simple question. I said yes immediately. My grandmother Helen was thrilled. She insisted on helping plan the wedding, even from her assisted living facility. She called me weekly with ideas, suggestions, and stories about her own wedding 70 years ago. She was vibrant, sharp, and endlessly loving. I wished she could walk me down the aisle, but she promised to be there, front row, cheering louder than anyone. Mallory agreed to be my maid of honor. Dr. Foster and Emily were invited. Of course, Aunt Carol would come. The Dignity Project team would be there. My chosen family, all of them. Derek remained in prison. I had not thought about him much, but occasionally I wondered if he had changed, if he had learned anything. I doubted it. Some people are too consumed by bitterness to grow. My mother sent one final letter, asking to attend the wedding. I did not respond. My father did not ask. His last letter, sent 6 months prior, simply said he was proud of me and wished me happiness. It was the closest thing to closure I would get from him. The wedding was small, intimate, and perfect. We held it in a garden, fully accessible, with ramps and wide pathways. Grandmother Helen sat front row, as promised, her eyes shining with pride. Ethan and I exchanged vows we had written ourselves, promising to support each other, to fight for each other, to build a life rooted in dignity and love. When the officiant pronounced us married, the applause was deafening. Mallory cried, "Doctor!" Foster beamed. Emily handed out tissues. I looked at Ethan, at this man who saw me as I was and loved me fiercely, and I felt complete. At the reception, I gave a short speech. I thanked everyone for being there, for being the family I chose. I talked about resilience, about the importance of surrounding yourself with people who lift you up rather than tear you down. I talked about justice, not just in courtrooms but in everyday acts of kindness and respect. And I made a promise. I promised to keep fighting, to keep advocating, to keep using my voice and my art to change the world, even if just a little bit. The crowd stood, applauding. Grandmother Helen raised her glass. To Josephina, the strongest woman I know. We toasted. We danced. We celebrated life, love, and the future. 2 years after the trial, I sat in my art studio, sunlight streaming through the windows, working on a new illustration. It was part of a series for a children's book about disability and acceptance. The main character was a girl in a wheelchair who went on adventures, solving mysteries and helping her community. I wanted kids to see disability as just one part of who someone is, not the defining feature. My phone buzzed. A text from Sophia, the young woman the Dignity Project had helped. She had just graduated from college and was starting a job as a social worker. She sent a photo of herself in a cap and gown, grinning widely. "Thank you for everything. I would not be here without you." I smiled, typing back. "You did this yourself. I am so proud of you." The nonprofit had grown. We had helped over 50 families in 2 years, providing legal support, financial assistance, and advocacy. Diana had expanded her practice to focus almost entirely on disability rights cases. Dr. Foster continued to serve on our board, using his medical expertise to educate families and professionals. Mallory had graduated with her social work degree and joined our team full-time. Ethan walked into the studio, carrying 2 mugs of coffee. He set one beside me and kissed the top of my head. "How is it going?" I gestured to the illustration. "Almost done. I think kids are going to love this character." He studied the image. "She looks like you. Strong, confident, ready to take on the world." I laughed. "That is the idea." We sat together in comfortable silence, sipping coffee, watching the city move outside the windows. Life was good. Not perfect. I still had hard days when my condition flared, when fatigue or muscle weakness kept me in bed, but I had built a support system that held me up. I had work that mattered. I had love that sustained me. My book had become a bestseller, at least within the disability community. It was taught in some college courses about disability studies and social justice. I received emails regularly from readers sharing how the book had helped them, inspired them, given them courage to fight their own battles. One email stuck with me. It was from a man whose sister had been declared incompetent by their family. He had read my book and realized what was happening was wrong. He hired an attorney, fought the conservatorship, and won. His sister was free, in control of her own life. He thanked me for showing him that fighting back was possible. That email reminded me why I did this work. Not for recognition or praise, but because everyone deserves dignity. Everyone deserves autonomy. Everyone deserves justice. I finished the illustration and saved the file. The publisher would love it. I stretched, rolling my shoulders, feeling the familiar ache of muscles that did not always cooperate. But I was here. I was alive. I was thriving. Grandmother Helen had passed away 6 months ago, peacefully in her sleep. She was 92. At her funeral, Aunt Carol and I had stood together, holding hands, mourning a woman who had been fierce and loving until the very end. Grandmother Helen had left me a letter, to be opened after her death. In it, she told me how proud she was, how she had always known I was stronger than anyone realized. She told me to keep fighting, to keep creating, to keep living fully. She said love is not about blood, it is about showing up, standing up, and lifting each other higher. I kept that letter in my desk drawer, reading it whenever I needed strength. Ethan and I were planning a trip, a cross-country accessible road trip, hitting national parks, cities, landmarks. We wanted adventure. We wanted to see the country, to prove that disability does not mean limitation. We were documenting the journey, planning to share it online, to show others that travel is possible, that life is possible. No matter what challenges you face, the Dignity Project was launching a new initiative, a hotline for people facing family exploitation. Trained advocates would answer calls, provide resources, and connect people with legal and emotional support. We had funding from grants and donations. It would launch next month. I looked at Ethan. "Do you ever think about how different things could have been if Dr. Foster had not shown up at the barbecue? If I had not overheard Derek in the garage? If I had not fought back?" He considered. "Every day. But you did fight back. You refused to be erased. And look at what you have built because of it." He was right. I had lost a family, but I had gained so much more. Purpose, community, love, justice. I thought about Derek sometimes. Still in prison, still angry, still blaming everyone but himself. I thought about my mother, living alone, isolated by her own choices. I thought about my father, trying to rebuild a life without the family he had helped destroy. I did not wish them harm, but I did not wish them back in my life either. Some bridges, once burned, cannot be rebuilt. And that was okay. I had learned that family is not defined by blood. It is defined by who shows up when you are at your lowest, who fights beside you, who sees your worth when others do not. Dr. Foster and Emily, Diana, Mallory, Aunt Carol, Grandmother Helen, even in death, Ethan, Sophia, and the dozens of others we had helped through the Dignity Project. They were my family. I had learned that disability does not make you weak. It reveals who the truly weak people are, the ones who prey on vulnerability, who see difference as deficiency, who choose cruelty over compassion. Those are the people who are truly disabled, crippled by their own ignorance and greed. I had learned that justice is possible. It is slow, it is hard. It requires courage and persistence and support. But it is possible, and when it comes, when you stand in a courtroom and hear the word guilty, when you hold a new law in your hands that protects others from what you endured, when you receive an email from someone you helped, it is worth every ounce of pain. I had learned that your voice matters. Speaking up, even when it is terrifying, even when people do not want to hear it, is essential. Silence protects abusers. Silence allows injustice to continue. But speaking up, telling your story, refusing to be silenced, that changes things. That saves lives, and I had learned that life after trauma is possible. Not just surviving, but thriving. Building something beautiful from the ashes. Finding joy, love, and purpose. Refusing to let the people who hurt you define who you become. I looked at the illustration on my screen. The girl in the wheelchair, smiling, confident, ready for adventure. That was me. That was all of us. People who refused to be limited by others' perceptions. People who claimed our space in the world. People who rose. Ethan's phone buzzed. He checked it and grinned. Sophia just posted on social media. She is running a marathon. In her wheelchair. She is dedicating it to the Dignity Project. I laughed, tears pricking my eyes. Of course she is. We sat together, watching the sun set over the city, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. The future stretched ahead, full of possibility. There would be challenges. There always are, but I was not afraid. I had fought the hardest battle of my life and won. I had built a life I was proud of. I had surrounded myself with people who loved and respected me. I had found peace, and I had learned the most important lesson of all. True strength is not about what your body can or cannot do. It is about refusing to let others define your worth. It is about standing up, speaking out, and fighting for dignity, justice, and love. It is about rising, again and again, no matter how many times the world tries to push you down. I had risen, and I would keep rising, every single day. I want to ask you something. Have you ever had to fight for your dignity, for your right to be seen and respected? Have you ever faced people who underestimated you because of something beyond your control? How did you rise above it? Share your story in the comments below. Your voice matters. Your experience could help someone else who is struggling right now. If this story moved you, if it made you think or feel or want to stand up for what is right, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Together, we can create a world where everyone is treated with dignity and respect, where disability is not seen as weakness, where justice is not just a dream but a reality. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring. I wish you strength, courage, and the knowledge that you are worthy, exactly as you are. Keep fighting. Keep rising. The world needs your voice.